Talk Back to Television. I'm here with John Canning, who I must say was one of my first guests when I started doing these podcasts in July 2000. I know. Can you believe that? Um,
A few things have happened since then.
well, your hair was a little darker and you didn't have a beard.
That's
My hair
true.
has always been this color, and I was born with my hair this color. But anyway, so John Canning, you spent time at NBC, Disney, Microsoft, and I was kidding you about, your time making those lousy set-top boxes at Scientific Atlanta. Yeah,
Don't forget the cable modems.
and well, okay, now the cable modems was kind of a big deal. So you jumped into the future of our business before we knew it was the future of our business. And you're allowed to quote that. Okay, so what are you doing now?
Oh gosh. So funny part is after not funny part, but the continuation of the crazy town. You forgot the part where in the middle of going from big corporate technology companies, I went and took photographs and video around the world and was a professional photographer and videographer for
Ooh.
adventure travel stuff.
Oh, okay, that's
Um,
awesomely cool.
that was cool. But it's poignant in the sense of that actually led me to being a member of the Producers Guild. I was an independent producer, shooter, creator. I realized I was part of this creator economy before the
We knew
phrase,
there was a creator economy, right?
right? Like independence, trying to make a way of it. Wound up going back to NBC or going to NBC, doing a lot of ITV stuff. Right.
Yep.
The funny part is when you and I met in 2000, I was doing ITV stuff.
But you
Uh,
were at where were you? Digital
I was at
Domain
Microsoft.
then,
I was at
right?
Microsoft doing the Media Center product.
Okay.
Um, Found full circle going back to NBC or going to NBC television, working for Rob Hayes, who was a name back in the day, and doing the interactive stuff for NBC broadcast. So the voting, the anything that was kind of attributed, bolted around a show.
Yep.
Did that for, oh my gosh, 6 years or more. Had a lot of fun. Got involved in a lot of the VR, XR related
That
stuff.
was what I
One
was the digital domain thing. That's when we were on the show in 2020. I got my 20s mixed up. But anyway,
No,
okay.
no, you're right. Yeah, yeah. So in 2020, I was working at Digital Domain, so visual effects company. Um, I like to call myself the executive producer of not film and television. So I was the executive producer of interactive, immersive experiences.
Okay.
But it was basically helping produce using the VFX crew and talent to make VR games, digital human work, holograms that were not holograms, all of that stuff, applying the expertise and talent and artistry of that company to these other mediums
Yep.
beyond film and television.
Yep.
A lot of commercial work, that sort of thing. Um, so that was a great run. Did some amazing projects. We produced. We worked with. One of them was last one was a big video game called The Quarry. Digital humans. 32 hours of performance capture, face, body, the whole nine
Sure.
yards.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
This was pre-generative AI.
well,
This was kind of doing it the
yes.
hard way with people walking around with blue buttons on their bodies, right?
Well, they're still walking around with some kind of thing on their bodies. But if you think about it, and that's a good question. It was heavily using AI processes, but we were using something called a GAN, a
Yep.
general adversarial network, um, where we were already using a lot of AI to do the heavy lifting of, I basically scan your face.
Yep.
I have a way your face works. Then I capture a ton of performance, and we were using a system to merge those, together. Basically, it's oversimplification,
No, no, I
uh,
get it.
but to process a metric ton of capture. So
Yeah.
when I said we did 32 hours of performance capture, you think of how long, say, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is.
Right.
We did that much more right? Like it was 32 hours of gameplay. It wasn't like we did 32 hours and squeezed it into a 2 hour movie. No, no, it was 32 hours of performance capture
Okay.
that was game, passive gameplay. So it crazy amount of that. One of the projects I did there was the original Dr. Martin Luther King we recreated Dr. Martin Luther King in the March,
Okay.
uh, which was right before the pandemic. We opened up at a museum, and 2 weeks later, the world shut down.
Yeah.
Um, but then, so I got recruited out of digital domain by AMD, the chip
Okay.
company,
All right.
which
AMD, the chip company. Okay.
right, and you're like, what? Wait, you
Wait.
were making content and doing crazies. Why are you at a
And
chip?
and now you've joined the dark side.
The joke is I'm sort of like an arms dealer, supplying all sides of the war. You don't really know who's going to win, but you want to. I mean, if you look at going in, and it wasn't intentional. I got recruited to go to AMD because as a chip company, they power software, they power content creation. Um, but understanding, and I like to say it this way: we make the shiny little chips that go in a box.
Yep.
It does nothing until you add some more software. That really still doesn't do anything until I go hand it to a creative. And at that point, it gets interesting, right? But it's that whole layer cake of processors and software and boxes to power a creative process. But it really is just inert plastic and metal until somebody does something interesting with it. And so that part was where my boss looked at me and said, I want you to go work with the big software companies in this business, like an
Okay.
Adobe or a Blackmagic or Houdini side effects. And you understand what the creatives are doing with that software. We want to make sure that software runs well on our hardware. So
Okay.
that's my day job. I try to make, Houdini or Adobe Premiere run better on our hardware so that some creative goes, this is awesome. I can go do what I want to go do. Oversimplification, but it's been a lot of fun. So I've been a creator. I've been involved in infrastructure, and now I'm in the business of empowering creators of every shape and size. Be it a large studio like Weta, a VFX firm like Weta, or individual who's got a powerful machine and is out making great stuff on YouTube. It's it's that's the continuum.
All right. So is it safe to say that you are going to company A and helping them get the maximum use and benefit out of the chip from AMD?
You got it.
Got it. So
Yep.
you're not then going back to AMD and saying, it would be better if it did this, or is
Oh,
that
I do a lot of that. I do a lot
okay?
of that.
So tell me about that process. What kind of feedback? I mean, I think of a processor as, if six was good, 16,000 is better. It's
You know
more
what?
than that, isn't it?
It's it's sadly more complicated. It's nuanced in the what do you want it to do, how fast you need it to do. It's the interplay between the different processing units. So a GPU, a CPU, AI processing,
Yep.
memory buses. Sometimes, it's I want in some cases I want a process to go as fast as possible, not run a bunch of them simultaneously. Sometimes
Okay.
it's how many processes like rendering, how many cores can I leverage? So it's the nuances of these things. It's the interplay of, again, that with a software layer or, and we're talking an OS, could be Linux, could be Windows, the interplay with that and the other, applications, the DCC applications. And then what is the end user trying to do? What are they trying to use the machine for? Are they trying to use the machine for more than one thing? So all of that being said, you're right. the interesting thing is if you think about silicon, making silicon, it's a potentially multi-year process of designing, getting it fabbed, created, then into a chip, and then into the market. If we look at, for example, what has happened in recently with AI and that sort of big blob of AI, the changes in that industry have been so fast that the silicon that was designed 2 years ago is supporting what's going on now.
Right.
Right? Decisions were made 2 years ago that in some cases had no idea, or of what was going on now. Then there's the software layer, drivers and stuff like that. So you're working on this dance of all of these pieces together. And again, we've got to go work with software companies and PC manufacturers because it's a dance to say, are we meeting the customer demand? And then my organization, and again, part of the reason I got hired was they wanted to know, like, I help influence, it's me and others, what we are putting in that silicon, what we are putting into the software layer, what are we supporting? Because again, different industries have different needs. Different people using the software want to do different things, right? The running an Excel spreadsheet and millions of parameters in a spreadsheet has maybe different needs than running Unreal and creating a live,
Yeah.
real-time 3D scene. So those nuances have to go back into because we're supporting a lot of different processing. And that's why there's a variety of different kinds of processors. You're seeing new chip designs. We have and other folks in the market now, you have these chip designs that are both a CPU and a GPU and a neural engine all molded together.
Okay.
So, we call them an APU. You look at the M chip from Apple, Intel's got a version of this. But what you're doing is instead of it being a discrete CPU and a discrete GPU, and then having to go down through a bus structure and then back up, you're having them on the same die. So, efficiencies in compute in some cases, so the new kinds of architectures are changing. We have to work with our software partners to support that. And as fast as slow maybe as silicon goes, software goes really fast, but then how do you merge all of these timelines with all of these people? But it ultimately comes down to creators, to me, right? Like it's somebody, and again, it could be a creator at a giant VFX company and a George creative firm, or it could be two people, who've got machines and they're sitting there
Yeah.
making stuff.
The joke was always the kid working out of his parents' garage in Hauppauge, right? I mean, there it is.
Right.
But that's where change is done.
And that's
That
where the
kid.
rubber meets the road, right? Like it's what I see is this diversification of, yep, you've got big media companies, but you have, and you can see this with tech companies, right? If you go to Seattle, the number of new startups and tech companies that are former Microsofties or
Oh
former
yeah.
Amazonians, right? And it's that you see in the media business, you see amazing talent that either that media company, Technicolor, out of the collapse of Technicolor rose a whole lot of new folks, that were like, well, okay, now what am I going to do? Well, I know how to use the tech tools and technology. I'm going to go see what I can create. New business, new companies. So that factor is the creator economy, if you will, the content economy is alive and well. It's
Oh,
just
it's
now
growing
starting
leaps and bounds. Yeah.
right. But the diversification of, it isn't just, and I'm going to make up the number of 5 companies, right? It's 50,000, right? It's 50, 5 million of those people, of 1 to X number of people creating content and collaborating and, distributing. I mean, it's why YouTube, it's the number 1 TV channel.
All right.
Like,
We we are out of time. All right, buddy. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I think I've got a lot of folks who are curious as to what you've been up to. So we're going to let them know this is going to air next week.
oh, I love it. I love it. Thanks for talking.
Thank you.